According to astrologers, the coronavirus pandemic marks the beginning of a series of misfortunes for humanity, which was outlined by Michel de Nostradamus, including widespread famine. He said, "After great trouble for humanity, a greater one is prepared. The great mover renews the ages. Rain, blood, milk, famine, steel, and plague. Is the heavens' fire seen, a long spark running?" That being said, we have rounded up the top 10 scary 2021 predictions. These prophecies are morbid, terrifying, and exhausting, especially after such an unpredictable year. Number 10. Zombie Apocalypse. The French astrologer, whose real name was Michel de Nostradamus, made a series of predictions in his book Les Prophéties in 1555. One such prediction was the dead would rise and take over the world. Nostradamus wrote, "Few young people, half dead to give a start. Dead through spite, he will cause the others to shine. And in an exalted place some great evils to occur. Sad concepts will come to harm each one. Temporal dignified, the mass to succeed. Fathers and mothers dead of infinite sorrows, women in mourning, the pestilent she-monster. The great one to be no more, all the world to end." Astrology website Yearly Horoscope said the zombie uprising as predicted by Nostradamus would occur in 2021. However, in his supposed zombie prediction, there is a specific mention of the half-dead. This is one of the greatest fears of humanity. Inspired by a bulk of Hollywood movies, and scientists do believe a zombie outbreak could happen. While it would be impossible to believe the dead would rise and feed on the living, experts do think that a parasite could affect the brain, or a virus could evolve. Number 9. Biblical famine. From Adolf Hitler's rise to power and the horrors of the Second World War, and to the Great Fire of London, the French Revolution, and the creation of the atomic bomb, Nostradamus' predictions have been eerily accurate. Another of the indicators, according to Nostradamus, is a massive famine, the size of which the world has never seen before. He said, "After great trouble for humanity, a greater one is prepared. The great mover renews the ages. Rain, blood, milk, famine, steel, and plague. Is the heavens' fire seen, a long spark running?" The past year has brought a wave of catastrophes, a global pandemic, economies teetering on the brink of collapse, temperatures rising, and countries languishing in drought. And one expert says the tragedies will keep coming. Nobel Peace Prize winner David Beasley says the world is creeping ever closer to a hunger pandemic, which will bring famines of biblical proportions in 2021. He says more than 30 countries are on the brink of famine. Yemen, South Sudan, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso have already tipped into famine conditions, according to the World Food Program. Beasley says one of the last bastions of hope are billionaires. He hopes some of the world's most wealthy will step up to help those who need it, with donations for things like global school lunch programs. He says $15 billion would allow the program to avert famine and provide lunches for malnourished children. Number 8. Solar storms. 2021 will be quite a significant year in terms of major global events. Great solar storms will take place, which could cause some major damages to the Earth. Nostradamus supposedly warned, "We shall see the water rising and the earth falling under it." The harmful effects of the climatic changes will then lead to many wars and conflicts, as the world will fight over resources and mass migration will follow. After a lengthy slumber, the sun is waking up, crackling with activity and hurling blistering pulses of energy into space. Solar physicists are expecting an uptick in stormy space weather, with implications that affect us here on Earth. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is predicting that a solar outburst could generate northern lights, or aurora, as far south as Oregon to Pennsylvania. This flare-up coincides with the onset of Solar Cycle 25, an 11-year window within which storminess on the surface of the sun peaks and solar storms become routine. Ezlayed Talat, NOAA's Director of Planning and Analysis, said if solar flares, bursts of electromagnetic energy out of the sun, are big enough, they can cause serious problems on Earth, including high-frequency communication used by airlines or emergency responders, satellites, GPS navigation systems, cell phones, solar panels, and more. Number 7. Devastating earthquake in California. It's now 2021. It might feel like the start of a new year to most of you, and hopefully a happy one. But some people believe that Californians ought to have nothing to be happy about this year. Rather than making plans for the 12 months to come, they believe that we should be packing up our personal belongings, selling our houses, and getting out of the state as quickly as they possibly can. The people we're talking about are those who still believe in the predictions of Nostradamus. According to their interpretation of his writings, California is doomed to be utterly destroyed by an earthquake sometime this calendar year. The idea of a large earthquake comes from a typically vague section of the supposed fortune teller's writings. He speaks of great calamity and a sloping park, which will see the lands of the West subjected to fire in the ship, along with captivity and plague, apparently caused by the twin factors of Saturn fading and Mercury in Sagittarius. The lands of the West reference has been interpreted to mean California, but how the rest of the description has been interpreted as an earthquake is anybody's guess. Number 6. Cybersecurity breaches. Just when it seemed that 2020 couldn't get any weirder, news broke that Russian state-sponsored hackers had spent much of the year exploiting vulnerabilities in SolarWinds' widely used Orion IT management software to hack into major federal agencies and corporations. After 4 years of deference toward Russia by the Trump administration, the incoming Biden administration will respond with renewed sanctions and retaliatory attacks for the SolarWinds hack. The challenge for the Biden administration will be to respond strongly enough to deter future attacks without triggering an escalation into cyber warfare. Also, expect a much stronger cybersecurity focus from the new administration. Simply cleaning up the mess from the SolarWinds attack will take time. Cyber attackers likely continue to dwell within the hacked networks. Throughout 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic created something of a new playground for hackers. In response, many institutions fortified cybersecurity systems and fast-tracked digital transformation initiatives. Here is the major trend that cut across a large number of cybersecurity industry prediction reports. There will be huge security impacts in the coming year from the move to work from home, fueled by COVID-19. More attacks will occur on home computers and networks, with bad actors even using home offices as criminal hubs by taking advantage of unpatched systems and architecture weaknesses. Number 5. Cyborg Soldier. The French astrologer and physician Michel de Nostradamus went on to predict that the human race will need to be protected super soldiers, with some even suggesting he predicted microchips would be implanted in the soldiers' heads. He wrote, "The newly made one will lead the army, almost cut off up to near the bank. Help from the Milanese elite straining. The Duke deprived of his eyes in Milan in an iron cage. Climate change, fake news, inequality, the stability of democracy." But we feel obliged to point out yet another threat: soldiers whose capabilities are enhanced by electronic devices implanted in their brains. Call them cyborg warriors. Journalist Michael Joseph Gross reports on efforts of the Pentagon's think tank, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, to create technologies that result in merging minds and machines. The most dramatic are brain chips, arrays of electrodes that, when implanted in the brain, can receive electrical signals from and send them to neural tissue. This mission is to make human beings something other than what we are, with powers beyond the ones we're born with, and beyond ones we can organically attain.
Please return to your homes.
Number 4. Coronavirus will continue. Pandemics and plagues have always been a part of human life and have an impact on the way we live. Nicholas Christakis, physician and Sterling Professor of Social and Natural Science at Yale University, says the coronavirus pandemic will continue to affect our lives through 2021 and beyond. We have millions of children who have missed school. We have tens of millions of Americans out of work. We have millions of businesses that have permanently closed. We have borrowed tons of money. We have rejiggered our lives. And to unwind a lot of those things and cope with them will take time. Reckoning with grief and loss will take time too. Pandemic-induced sadness has been described in the Bible, Shakespeare, and Homer's Iliad, which signals how emotions such as sorrow are part of the complicated human experience. The future will very much depend on how much social mixing resumes and what kind of prevention we do, says Joseph Wu, a disease modeler at the University of Hong Kong. Recent models and evidence from successful lockdowns suggest that behavioral changes can reduce the spread of COVID-19, if most, but not necessarily all, people comply. Number 3. The end of antibiotics. There's a time bomb ticking that is going to affect us all. Whether you are a sub-Saharan subsistence farmer or a New Yorker buying a super smoothie in Whole Foods, there will be no escape. The threat? An invisible army of super-resistant bacteria is on the march. Antibiotics, the drugs that have saved millions of lives and are critical for the world's health and well-being, have become a victim of their success. Their overuse and misuse have helped bacteria and other infectious bugs to develop resistance to them, meaning that many infections are no longer effectively treatable by current medicines. Every year, 700,000 people die of drug-resistant infections, and experts predict that this number could rise to 10 million. We risk entering a post-antibiotic era where routine operations such as hip replacements and cancer treatment, which rely on effective antibiotic medicines, will become much more dangerous, and people will die of common infections as they did 100 years ago. This is a global problem whose impact will be felt by everyone everywhere. To beat it, people and communities need to get informed and engaged. We are going to have to take urgent action at every level, from governments right down to the individual consumer. Number 2. Aliens invasion.
Oh my God!
For decades, Hollywood films fantasized about what it would be like if the world was suddenly confronted with an alien invasion. From Robert Wise's The Day the Earth Stood Still to Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. These movies showed us the unimaginable devastation that would follow in the wake of these alien beings. Skygazers have reported a huge increase of unidentified flying objects seen in the state already. 184 unexplained flying crafts or lights seen in the state have been logged with the National UFO Reporting Center. In almost all of 2019, only 151 were seen. The sightings include bright lights, strange sounds, and oddly shaped objects. A person in Staten Island gave a terrifying description of a burning sensation following a sighting. Mankind is completely unprepared for an alien invasion. UFOologist and former Ministry of Defense UFO investigator Nick Pope has warned. And Mr. Pope said the arrival of an aggressive, invasive species might bring with it a similar associated threat. He explained, "For all the talk of the extraterrestrial threat if we faced a real-life war of the worlds, the aliens might not be the only danger. Just as every dog is only 2 meals away from being a wolf, every society is only 3 meals away from revolution." On the other hand, an elite SAS unit of around 20 soldiers is reportedly being trained to respond to an alien invasion of Earth. A source told the Daily Star that the SAS has to be prepared for anything, including everything from terrorists to human bioweapons where someone has been deliberately infected with a deadly bug, all the way through to an alien life form. Number 1. A comet will hit the Earth. This event will cause earthquakes and other natural disasters, which can be concluded from the quatrain. In the sky, one sees a fire and a long trail of sparks. Other interpretations of this quatrain assert that it refers to a great asteroid that will hit the Earth. Once it enters the Earth's atmosphere, the asteroid will heat up, appearing in the sky like a great fire. The American Space Agency is keeping a close eye on a massive asteroid that could eventually smash into Earth. The asteroid, known as JF1, is designated a Near-Earth Object, NEO, meaning it orbits the Sun and comes close enough to our planet to cause concern. Experts believe that JF1 measures around 130 meters in diameter and believe it's about the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. They believe were it to strike Earth, it would be the equivalent to detonating 230 kilotons of TNT. That kind of detonation would dwarf the force of the Hiroshima atomic bomb in 1945, which exploded with the force of 15 kilotons of TNT. Because of the danger of a future collision, space agencies around the world are developing ways to avert a possible extinction event. Researchers and spacecraft engineers from across Europe and the US are working on a mission to deflect a space rock and prove the technique is a viable method of planetary defense. From a devastating earthquake that will destroy California to a hunger pandemic, which will bring famines of biblical proportions, these are the top 10 scary 2021 predictions. If you did like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to stay up to date with such interesting future videos.